As the world continues to fight the coronavirus with finding a vaccine and treatment, the real battle facing everyday people, particularly our seniors, is now isolation. With further social restrictions put on our communities, our seniors and those with health issues and disabilities are more vulnerable than ever. Today, I'm joined by CQUniversity's Dr. Lynne Parkinson. Lynne is an adjunct professorial research fellow undertaking gerontology research at CQUni with a special interest in reducing social isolation for vulnerable groups. Lynne, thanks for joining us on our podcast.
Hi, Priscilla. It's actually really nice to be here today.
Excellent. Firstly, can you explain the potential impact of loneliness on these groups of people at this time?
Well, I guess, Priscilla, loneliness is already having an impact on older people. Those impacts are very, very substantial. So loneliness is a subjective thing. So some people who are isolated are not necessarily lonely. So what I'm saying is loneliness, it's as bad as having a physical ailment. It produces physical impacts that are as bad as smoking. And that's been proven in past research. So it's really bad both physically and psychologically, emotionally for people to be isolated, to feel loneliness in their isolation. And as I've said, it's already been an issue. A lot of older people that we know of are isolated anyway. And the people that are now going into self-isolation, there's a lot of people out there who are quite, I guess they've been living their lives in a very social way. They've been volunteering, they've been keeping on with their community activities, they've been meeting with their friends at coffee places, at cafes. They've been doing all of that social stuff that we really encourage older people to do. And now they've sort of been, I guess, stopped in their tracks. So the people who are already isolated, they are a major problem for community in terms of burden. And now we've got this other group of people who were just going out there and doing it. And the ramifications are actually quite well, they're quite scary, really, because there's a real need for concern about the number of older people there's going to be out there who will be lonely in their self-isolation.
So I know technology can play its part here. You know, I know as a university and the schools and businesses are going online more and more at this time. But is it a way for seniors to connect as well, or are they just not skilled enough to do that?
Well, my team's done a lot of research around technology and older people, and I have to say that they are just as skilled as younger people. They don't realise they are. And when they are skilled up, and we're talking things like smartphones and tablets, so they're not that difficult. When they're skilled up with that sort of technology, they're very, very good at it, and they can see the real benefit of it. We've done a lot of work around video conferencing between older people. We did some work which was older carers of people with dementia, and that the technology we used was quite simple. It was just whatever they had on in their household, whether it's an old computer or an old laptop or a new one, their tablets, their smartphones. It's not a lack of skill. It's not a lack of ability. I think sometimes older people haven't thought about it, and I guess I see that it's quite it's a sign of gerontism or ageism, which focuses on older people, to think that they don't have the capabilities or they can't develop the skills.
So how many people in that sort of category, the older people, those with disabilities, or do they actually have smartphones, and are they connected to the internet, computers?
Well, the vast majority of people have, in our experience, do have something. And most people are connected to the internet. So in the most recent Deloitte's report, 91% of people over 50 had a mobile phone, a smartphone, not just a mobile phone, a smartphone. When you get to the groups of those people who are 80, it gets down to about 70%. But if 70% of people over 80 have a smartphone, then you're talking about that's a majority of that population have a smartphone. Now, in some cases, people may only use it in a non-smart way, but they have every ability. I mean, all you need is a smartphone. A smartphone allows you video contact. It allows you discussion board type, Facebook, just that text type contact. And most people do have the technology, but they don't use it for that purpose yet. Internet's a bit more tricky. So internet's a bit more tricky because as you go out into the regions, rural areas, then internet becomes less available. But certainly in the cities, there's good access to internet.
That was just going to lead into my question about what are the barriers for them to use the technology?
Yeah, or lack of internet and lack of steady internet. But if you're just doing an informal meeting, just having a chat, then it doesn't really matter if it drops out, does it? And you can get back in. So I guess there's the barriers are for older people. They may be wary of using technology. They may be very old school and still be doing everything by hand and thinking everything's manual and be resistant. I think that's actually a minority of older people, because in our experience, people can use even quite complex technologies. So they can use monitoring equipment, etc. So our research has shown that people who are 75 plus are quite adept at using quite complex technical equipment when they're shown how. And I think that's one of the important things, is that not forcing someone, just being quite gentle about going, well, you've got your smartphone. Do you know what you can actually do with that? Why don't you just press that button? Something like Messenger, if you're using text on Messenger anyway, you just press a button, press an icon, and you're there in video. So I think it's getting used to that, being able to do that. And there's so many apps out there that make it easy. It's just a press of a button.
That actually leads into my other question. What technologies, what are the apps, what can they be using?
Well, for our research, we use Zoom. And I think everybody knows about Zoom now. I'm pretty impressed. When we started, it wasn't that known a quantity, but these days everybody's going, oh, you're on Zoom, we're Zooming this and Zooming that. WhatsApp. We've got Facebook. We've got on Facebook, we've got Messenger, and there's a video component to that. But there's specialized apps that you can use as well. So there's Skype. I mean, that's old school Skype. There are so many different apps out there, and many of them free. So the free apps like Messenger and Skype, you can use those with one or two people for free for as long as you like, pretty much. So there some restrictions on, say, Zoom. You can only use that in a free app for 40 minutes, but you just want to ring up and have a 15-minute chat anyway.
Enjoying this episode? Subscribe to CQUniversity Commentary on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts for more. And remember to rate, review, and share.
And what are some of the other things they could be using these technologies for, not just to connect with family and friends? Is there other things they can be using it for?
Well, my goodness me, Priscilla, I think that this whole crisis has been an amazing turning point for the development of virtual situations, virtual social situations. So there's choirs happening, there's groups that are meeting everyone's doing book club online. They're doing their Friday afternoon drinks from home online with their mates. It's burgeoning. I find it actually really quite exciting. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is amazing. People are just using it for all many different things. So you've got artists coming online and putting up videos about how to crafts for young people. There's a lot of stuff around children being isolated, but there's also a heck of a lot of stuff about older people and joining groups. So all the groups that were face to face, there's such an opportunity to make those online as well, so you don't have to stop, miss that social interaction.
I know one of the restrictions that were put early on is churches had to close down, and I know that with the older people, some of there's a fair cohort of the older generation that still like to to go to their church on a Sunday. How are they going to, I know that a lot of churches actually are going on Facebook or YouTube or whatever, doing their sermons and that. Do you think that you'll see a lot of these older people going to that platform and watching to connect?
Well, I think, Priscilla, it's a really big motivation. I think people need that sort of connection. And I think, one of the reasons that older people may not have gone virtual before is there's not really been a need for them, because they've been able to get out. They can go to church, they can go down to their grocery shopping, they can do all of that, because that keeps them, and that's wonderful. It keeps them active, and that's the absolute best thing we would want for older people. But in this crisis situation, that has to stop. So it's a really big motivation. So what you need, I think it's you've got to have reasons to start something that you're a bit resistant to. And I think this is a great motivation for them to get online, so they can continue to connect with their church groups. I think a lot of people who you wouldn't expect will be doing that.
Now, how can the children of these older people, their grandchildren, how can we help them with these technologies in this time, despite the fact we have to be isolated from them?
Well, I think what's really cool for us is patience and just taking things, I guess, one step at a time. So we found one of our studies that we ran, where we were video conferencing with older people, we had a very gentle young lad ring them up and take them through the steps, and they loved him. We got a lot of really positive feedback about how supportive he was. So it's about they phone you anyway. You would phone your parents, even if it's landline phoning. You can take them through the steps on the smartphone. If they only have a smartphone, then you take them through the steps of what they need to do. Now, we've got some manuals that should be going up online, which they're very easy manuals developed by our IT people, Steve Gordon and Bib Bray, that tell people how they can get onto Zoom or Skype using different sorts of modalities. So they by a tablet, by a smartphone, by a PC. So it's easy steps. So I think if people can access that, and they can just be gentle and just do it a step at a time. So if they aren't using their smartphone to do text type stuff, just encourage them, but tell them exactly how to do it step by step. And so these manuals will help. So it's about that, being very patient and not, I guess, being very encouraging and positive about the small steps that they make towards using better, more technology.
With more seniors forced to use technology at the moment, do you think coronavirus has provided a bit of a silver lining?
I think it is a bit of a silver lining. I think there's lots of situations already in the community where we've been trying to have seniors, older people, use technology, because it's a nice way to connect. So I think the more people use it, the more people who are skilled up. One of the biggest barriers, Priscilla, has been that digital literacy, not knowing how to get on. So if we can upskill a lot more people, it really just opens it up. I think it is a bit of a silver lining. It's a nice way to put it.
If you were to say one app or one piece of technology that our older people should be using it in this time, what would it be?
Would have to be a smartphone. It's just so easy. Just use that. I think the app, I'd be difficult for me to come down about that. I think there's pluses and minuses. I personally use Messenger video with my grandchildren, so that's what I use. Incredibly simple, but WhatsApp would be just as good. Any of those video enhancing, FaceTime video enhancing enhanced apps, and they're on your phone anyway. So, but a smartphone, I think, tablets are great because they're really easy to use. But if you've got a smartphone, it means that you don't have to buy anything. So what you've got, that's what you should use. So if you don't have a smartphone, if you have a PC, what you've got in your house is what you should be using, and whatever you can load up that I guess your family, friends, or your church is using. So it's about using what's there and not having to spend money on it.
Fabulous. Well, thank you very much for spending the time with us, Lynne, and explaining that. And I will endeavour to upload to our sites as well those links to the step-by-step
Fantastic.
stuff for you as well. So thank you very much. Is there anything that any further tips that you can sign off with?
I think that younger people need to be more open-minded about what their older release can do, what the older people they're in contact with can do. In fact, be more encouraging, say, look, you can do this. When they say, I can't do this, then quote the research. 90-year-olds can do this. You can do this.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Lynne. We'll chat again soon.